Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Fergus Ewing says that his party, the SNP, is in real trouble if it allows an extremist fringe to dictate its next leader. He obviously doesn't feel able to support John Swinney. He, of course, is a very close ally and supporter of Kate Forbes, so it's not surprising that he feels that way. And he wants Kate to run for the leadership. And if she does, it means there's a contest. Now, it's been shown that the vast majority of people, when asked if there's a preference, suggest Kate would make a better First Minister than Swinney. Many people think that Swinney is a has-been, is toxic, is too closely aligned to the former regime, the former two regimes, indeed. And as the previous leader of the party, he was an unmitigated disaster. So I suppose if you fail once, it's worth the go to try and fail twice. Humza, of course, failed 4 times, a man well vested in failure. So perhaps one day we'll look back and think, yes, he was the king of fail. But Swinney seems to be following his footsteps and wants to go as well. But before, of course, Humza Yousaf quit, he was saying how wonderful the Greens were and kept praising the Butte House Agreement, saying it was worth its weight in gold, which it proved to be, if anything, only fool's gold, because it was absolutely disastrous. It was damaging policy after damaging policy, which cost taxpayers an absolute fortune and will continue to do so for many years to come, perhaps. But now, as John Swinney and his supporters amongst them, his supporters amongst all of the MP and MSPs, rather, they still to believe that this wasn't a problem. They're still courting the Greens. When a political party is so obviously and massively out of step with public opinion, then it absolutely is in real bad trouble. It does not understand what people want. It does not have its pulse, or its finger on the pulse, should I say, of the people. It lives in an ivory tower, divorced from reality, divorced from the people it's meant to be serving, and serving only its own political masters, the Greens, it seems. For although they were thrown out of government, it seems they still control the SNP. Now, of course, Kate Forbes does not believe in the sort of things that the Greens believe in, which is why they can't stand her. She is a woman of her own mind. She has her own views on things. And she gets a bit of slack over her sort of staunch Protestantism, her belief systems. But at least she has the moral conviction of them. No one else does. And the rest of them do seem to have this very, very weird set of beliefs that men can be women and that children are there to be used or abused. And Swinney certainly seems to think that this is acceptable. But, of course, on matters of gender, on matters of transitioning children, the Greens and this sort of Marxist left side of the SNP seem to think is a good thing. But the public don't. Opinion poll after opinion poll after opinion poll found massive amounts of people, the vast majority, opposed to ID, opposed to child abuse, opposed to the sterilisation of children. And yet still the SNP don't recognise this. Now, Fergus Ewing is a wise head on old shoulders. I think Kate is a wise head on young shoulders, and that's perhaps why they get on so well. Certainly the two of them are sensible. I'm not saying that they'll be good in any way, but they are sensible, they are sane, and I do feel fundamentally decent. And that makes a big difference in the SNP. And of course, that's why so many people outside of the SNP see that Kate is the better option. But it's not been mentioned much. They're not even calling for this leadership campaign to even begin. They want a crown. They want a coronation. They don't want the disaster that was the last leadership contest, where everyone was slagging everyone off and where some really bad home truths came out. Nobody was walking out of that one smelling from roses. The difference here, of course, is Kate's little secrets are already out. She's got nothing left to reveal. Swinny, though, well, we all know he has. And so they're still on the left, tripping over themselves, trying to get rid of Kate, trying to say she mustn't run because Swinny must take over, and Kate is having none of it. And of course, this could mean that there is the contest. The contest runs 6, 8, 10 weeks, who knows? It'll be brought to a head on a series of votes, and then emerges a leader. But a leader who must be acceptable to the majority of the House. Now, they're trying to put Swinny up and then going to the Greens and saying to the Greens, please back us. Yes, we fired you out of government, but back us to get Swinny in. And the Greens will probably comply, because even though they were fired and they were angry, they absolutely don't want Forbes. And if Swinny fails, then they'll have to put Forbes up. Now, on the other side, if they put Forbes up and the Greens walk out on it, chances are the Tories would accept Forbes. She is at heart, I feel, a Tory. And she, of course, has Tory leanings almost. She's against all the things that the Greens are proposing. The heat in buildings bill that imposes the obligations on putting heat pumps in, she'd get rid of that, she says. Obviously, the gender reforms, they've gone. They're talking about the wood burners ban. She'd get rid of that. All sorts of things that the Greens would push and she would be against. But these are the same sort of things that Swinny would try to impose so that he could kiss the ring of the Greens in order to get in and become First Minister. Now, Labour, on the other hand, would probably want John Swinny in, because he's so appallingly bad that come the next election, well, they'll take a big majority in Holyrood as well. So it's a bit of a hit and miss system. But when you've got the Tories are the second biggest party in Holyrood, so getting them on board almost guarantees that Kate would be in. It's great, isn't it? How many people in the SNP would vote for Kate? I think a lot. I think even though the party members want Swinny, and he would be presented, I don't know, and unless everyone in the Greens went for it, and I don't see why, if that was the case, Fergus and Kate Forbes would. It would fail. They'd have to offer up Kate Forbes, and the Tories would vote for it and she'd be in. She could do it with the Tories, and it's cracking. And of course, the whole point of all this is having docked the tail of the big yellow dog, the tail is reattaching itself and it's wagging the dog again. And it seems that the Greens are going to dictate who is going to be the next First Minister. And nobody likes it. Some are going to accept it, but they don't like it. But that's what happens when you've got nobody with balls taking over control of a party. Sad. Anyway, there we go. Finished there. Thank you very much for listening. Take care. Goodbye.